Good morning. So I don't know how many of you went to the Capital Campaign information meetings where they gave a brief history of the church, but what happened in my meeting was when they got to the 2000s, they said, oh, well, that was the troubled times, and that's all they said. And as a new member of the church, I thought, well, what in the world happened? And I had heard other grumblings from various people saying that, oh, yeah, that was the troubled times, but I never knew what that meant. And so, of course, I imagined all sorts of horrible things. And even as I was preparing for this talk, I asked a few people if I could interview them, and lots of people said no. And that made me wonder, wow, well, really what it made me feel like was this was really personal. And so you can't really summarize it in a short time, and I can't do that today either, but what I would like to try to do is explain generally what happened. And for those of you who are new like I am, I think it's important to know what that secret is, because otherwise it's a barrier to being a member of the community if you're not in on the secret. So I am going to say what that is in a minute. And I want to make a disclaimer that some of my facts may be wrong. I wasn't here. I couldn't talk to everybody. I didn't read every document in the 3 boxes of file folders I was handed. But I did the best I could with the time and the resources I had. And as you see in the Covenant of Healthy Relations, there's a phrase that says that we're going to communicate directly in a spirit of compassion and goodwill, and that's what I'm attempting to do, and I hope that you will receive my talk in that same spirit. In the late 1990s, it seems that the vibe of this church was fairly like a well-oiled machine. The interim ministers were very organized and delivered carefully constructed intellectual sermons. And it seemed that the church was ready for a change in 2000 when they hired Reverend Davidson Lohr, who was charismatic and fascinating and thought-provoking and challenging, and apparently gave really amazing sermons week after week. And there was new music with a fabulous director and new musicians coming on board, and membership soared. You weren't in the space that you're in right now if you were here at that time. But Reverend Lohr was, well, not in this form. Well, you know what? Let me just go back to my disclaimer. If we could be so kind, I'm going to say some things that are factually incorrect because I'm doing the best I can here, but we'll just go with the spirit of the message rather than the... Okay, so Reverend Lohr was very active in the media community, giving lots of radio and TV interviews and writing articles in the paper. I understand he won a Best of Austin Minister Award from the Austin Chronicle. And so he was very popular in that sense, but there was also a little bit of trouble brewing behind the scenes in terms of administrative tasks and ministerial duties, and differences of opinion about what those tasks and duties were supposed to be. And there were some reports of members saying that his one-on-one interactions were a little bit off-putting, and so, you know, you can't be perfect in all areas, so life goes on. And there are vibrant youth programs, and the Paradox Players are putting on great productions, and there was a capital campaign in 2005 that did the renovations that we are enjoying right now and need more of. So Unitarian Universalists, like most denominations, don't shy away from politics. There's nothing unusual about that. We strongly identified ourselves as being an institution of liberal religion. I saw that phrase all over the place in the documents. And our tagline at the time was "One Church, Many Beliefs." Well, that philosophy was tested one Sunday morning in February of 2006 when Reverend Lohr preached about his belief that 9/11 was an inside job orchestrated by the Bush administration. The congregation was shocked. Some stood up and left mid-sermon. And many members who were no fans of George W. Bush were nonetheless horrified by these accusations. And they were made not only in this building, but also in some of those media outlets I mentioned earlier. Other members were horrified by the notion that the church was not supporting the many beliefs part of the tagline, and they thought, well, you know, if somebody has that belief, so be it. And so this caused a rift in the community. And it was not just a casual intellectual rift. It seemed like it went a lot deeper. And I heard stories of things that were very personal and hurtful. And I'm not going to go into those details, but it was very much like a civil strife with friends against friends and families divided. And hundreds of members left the church at this time. So the way I was seeing it is that even though we had a new building, we had really lost the sanctuary, the sacred space where you could feel safe and loved and at peace. Well, shortly thereafter, Reverend Lohr went on sabbatical and the congregation regrouped. There were listening groups that were formed to give members a chance to voice their opinion. Experts from the National UU Association came in to offer support and suggestions, and the Board of Trustees redefined and clarified their expectations about how the church needed to be managed administratively. In December 2008, Reverend Lohr was voted out of office by a congregational vote. Now, what inspires me most about this decade is what happened next. All of the people that I talked to, every one of them, when they were describing what happened, right after they described how horrible it was, they said something along the lines of, "So then I joined a committee. So then I got more involved." And that's really my lasting impression about what happened in this decade, is that there was a core group of people that chose to stay and would not let this place die. And they are the ones that I want to honor today, because they are the reason why we have this message on our wall. They are the reasons why we have the Covenant of Healthy Relations that's in your bulletin. They are the reason we were able to attract Reverend Meg, who we love so much. And so I want to say to those of you who were here at that time and chose to stay and make this place a sanctuary again, thank you. And thank you for listening.